Well, I'd like to keep it
Alrighty.
conservative. Sorry.
Hey, oh no, hey, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
Well, I'd
Make
like to
sure
keep it
I'm all
conservative. Sorry.
volumed correctly. Hey, oh no, hey, yes I am. Hi, welcome to an anime story podcast. My name is Jake. I'm one of your hosts. Over here on the right is Mandy. She's one of your other hosts, and Noah below me, he is one of your other hosts. Today on an anime story podcast, the 20th of October, Halloween month, we are doing season 2 of Little Witch Academia. Last week we watched season 1, or technically the week before that we watched season 1. This week we watched season 2, and we're discussing it. I think there's lots of mixed feelings on it, or conflicting feelings on it with everybody. So I think it should be kind of an interesting conversation. Hey, Mandy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
You're pretty good.
Loving the mountains.
Yeah.
The
God
sun's
love
already.
those. Yes, it's. Hope I think it's gonna be supposed to be really warm tomorrow. Over here, anyways. Hey, Noah, how are you doing today?
I am all right, good sir.
Yeah. All right. Well, so today we're going to be talking about Little Witch Academia, just season 2. We're not going to talk about season 1. Got some conflicting thoughts about it. I didn't like it too terribly much. I was kind of let down by it. But Mandy, tell me your thoughts on the show, please.
3 out of 5.
A 3 out of 5? That's fair. That's totally fair. What'd you like about it?
The things I liked about it were that I felt like there was a consistent message of believing and pushing for your dreams can make it happen. To not give up, and I liked that. Even though she can't ride a broom, Diana, we all find out later that that's a motivating factor. Is she stole their magic, and so that caused a lot of this problem. And Diana had to work really hard to get it, and that's part of her reason for not liking and envying the main character, because she doesn't get. She doesn't. It seems like she gets it right away, and she got Shiny Chariot, and I felt like those things tracked through really well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, that does bring up something that I was a great. Something I thought was a great motivation, or just bit in the show was Shiny Chariot's in her past. You know, she wants to inspire people and get people interested in magic and whatnot. And in fact, her doing that the way she had done it was stealing people's powers unbeknownst to her. Wow, that sucked. Like that's probably the best possible bad thing you could have done to her, is make it so the act of her trying to do that was stealing people's powers. The protagonist and Diana, both two of the main characters of the show, get their part of their power stolen, and have to work.
I feel like part of the problem though with that too is I feel like she recovered too quickly. Like, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Like that she recovered, like Shiny Chariot recovered quickly?
No, like Ochiko. What's her name?
The main character?
Atsuko?
Yeah. Huh?
Well, Atsuko never recovered fully, right? Atsuko.
Is that the main character?
Yeah.
Atsuko. That's right.
The protagonist never recovered. Like even at the end of the series, she's like maybe able to ride a broom at the very end.
Yeah.
Are you referring to like her powers being stolen as a kid?
I don't mean recovered magic-wise. I mean she recovered from the trauma of finding out about Shiny Chariot.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's interesting. That's got to be some mixed. Definitely.
And she never got the full story. We did, as an audience, but they didn't. And so that makes it kind of unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely.
I think I think that reaction didn't bother me so much. I think what did bother me with Atsuko was before that the technology mage, the antagonist of this season of the series. What's her name?
I don't remember.
Constance.
Constance?
Was it?
So, no, Constance is the tech witch that's the
Oh,
fellow student.
so,
I'm
yeah,
referring
the,
to the antagonist, the overarching
Yeah,
bad
Oh,
guy.
gotcha.
yeah.
Her name is.
Old Tech Witch.
She's got a really simple name.
Yeah, I feel like she does.
Oh, Croy.
Croy.
Right, Croy. Mhm.
So, Croy talks to Atsuko,
Mhm.
and it's when Croy is tricking Atsuko into going to the tree with the pollen that kills magic.
Yeah,
And
that's fair. I know what you're saying.
Croy turns to Atsuko, and
Yeah.
she says, "Gee, that Ursula sure is kind of shady, isn't she? Kind of shady. I think she's a little bit shady, and we don't know that much about her." And after like 3 lines of dialogue, Atsuko is suddenly like kind of hostile towards Ursula,
That was
and
a
Yeah.
little bit weird. Yeah.
it feels very abrupt. It feels like Atsuko is a character who has like the bare minimum of willpower and just got persuaded by like
Uh-huh.
the tiniest of things.
Yeah.
It feels disingenuous because it's hard for me to believe that Atsuko is so impressionable and weak-willed as
Mhm.
like it seems like too little to persuade her to turn so like
Yeah, she was a little bit.
abruptly and vehemently
That was.
against Ursula.
It was a little bit much because she was like swatting her hand out of the way and being like, "No, why do you try to stop me from doing this?" or something. And she was like, "It's dangerous."
He had already built up that rapport with Ursula.
Right.
Well, for her to change her mind so quickly
Yeah.
didn't grant itself to that.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I feel like that was probably a thing that is a thing that the show as a whole could have worked on, is justified character reactions and justified character relationships, because there are a lot of things that are kind of hinted at or that are kind of developed but are not brought to like the place that they kind of should be. Like she could have, if they maybe would have started seeding, this kind of distrust earlier on
Over time.
and made it so she got more and more suspicious, and finally at this she was like, I'm done, then it would have felt better. But it did kind of just pop up in that one episode and all of a sudden she distrusts her, and it came across as a little disingenuous, and
so
I felt like there are a few things that came across as disingenuous throughout. Like it was just in each episode there were a few things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and I think just the whole show kind of felt maybe rushed, or I don't. Yeah, just things were not developed. Yeah,
there was when the protagonist goes with Amanda O'Neal to the boys' school,
Right.
and there's the villain guy there. The I think it's like a blonde student who's very proud and entitled.
Yeah.
It felt like that student kind of like changed their viewpoint a bit too much, flipped a bit too much at the end. Like it didn't seem consistent with his character. It felt like he was just flipping at the end so that they could have something, an effect that they wanted.
Yeah, no, that's fair, and I think it's just it's just a character development thing. Because there were only how many, was it a 13 episode season or a 12 episode season?
There were 25 in all.
25 in all, so yeah, it'd be like a 12 episode season.
12.
So that isn't a lot of time, and they did have a lot of characters to build, and they chose to do an episode with the witch who's the hot-headed one, with Constance, the technology one. They didn't do one with the eat food chick, which was I was ready for it. It didn't happen though. I was going
there was a line.
With it.
There was a line at like the last episode during which the eat food lady who was there, who is such a good character, who reinforces good, healthy messages to the viewers, looked up at the missile flying through the air and was like, That doesn't look tasty at all.
It's like, God,
Writers, are
why?
you even trying?
Why would
Like,
why would you make her
oh.
say that? Oh dear. But yeah, they did. They had, so I think they had a lot of characters, and they briefly touched on all of them pretty much.
I think that
Briefly.
I think it would have been much better off if they had
Yeah.
trimmed. Let me look through the list of characters.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right, if they had removed, yeah, I'm gonna go as far as in saying it.
Mhm.
Yes, 10 characters. If they had removed 10 characters, which is probably about a third the characters in the show, and focused more on the characters that were still left over, I think it would have been vastly better. I think that they just didn't develop any of the characters
well,
enough.
I
so
think it's more of a writing development problem. I don't
Mhm.
think it's like the
I
characters
can agree
themselves.
with that.
Mhm.
Because I think if you develop it correctly and you do it right,
Mhm.
then it still can get that
Yeah.
message across. I feel like they were
Yeah.
all so sporadic, and the things were, there was too much going on that they didn't track anything through.
Well,
I can see that is absolutely, if they had written it better, they could have developed the characters better in the time they had.
and something they could have done, which they didn't do, is they, instead of having an episode with protagonist and Constance, and then another episode with protagonist and the flying ace chick, and then when the protagonist and like, if they'd have done an episode with like 4 of them in one, and they'd have done something in that episode, cool. And then they'd have done another episode with, maybe 3 or 4 of them. And instead of just doing a one-on-one episode, you're I'm not saying you're wasting the episode, but you are limiting the episode to 2 characters, the main character and one of the side characters that you want to develop.
Yeah.
And 12 episodes, it's not a lot of time to do that. If you had a 24 episode season, maybe, but you got 12 episodes, whew, that's a lot of screen time to give to this single character, especially if that's the only episode you're going to have. And again, we did not really get any episode with just like the 2 main friends. They were kind of in the background a bunch. And that was a thing
We didn't get any with Saucy this time.
Yeah, no, literally, she just wasn't there. And I don't know, maybe if they thought they went a little bit much with her in the first season and they wanted to lay off, but
Which they did.
They did.
But
yeah,
Yeah,
but she
but
Saucy.
now what?
she's one of she's I mean,
what was her purpose now?
you're talking like this is a trio, you're Harry, Ron, and Hermione, right? So like if
I-
that's the group, you still need to have them.
Saucy and Lotte did not feel like they served any meaningful function in this season. I think if they had been
Not at all.
removed from the season altogether, it wouldn't have changed anything. It wouldn't have changed episodes, plots. They could have kept all the same plots.
Yeah,
and it would have been fine without those.
Well, I think the problem was they dropped the motivation for those characters altogether.
So
now we didn't have a moment to moment with them. We had, oh, look at all that's happening. Let us explain this to you. And the audience never being explained to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. It felt like, they just were kind of there to be there. They're there because they're her friends.
I would dare to say I don't think Saucy and Lotte ever had a strong enough motivation to really drive them forward in the story.
That's true. I love mushrooms is not the best motivation of all times. And Lotte.
My husband had a theory on Saucy.
Oh, really? Did it have to do
he thinks that he's an old bog witch who's lived forever. And
nice.
She was just there to steal the potions from
the
earth and the magic from the school. So she didn't actually give a crap about anybody.
That would have been more interesting than I love mushrooms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you think about that could be.
It could be.
I have a question. Andrew Hanbridge, seemingly at a glance, one of the most important side characters in the show, but looking more closely at it, I don't think there's a single thing he does in the second season that makes him worthy of bringing into an episode.
That's the kid, or that's the guy?
That is the fancy guy.
Yeah.
Who is the attractive one, as described in the first season.
His motivations also were not clear. I mean, you could tell he wanted to be a good guy, but he never acted on any of those impulses. Nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Noah.
there is a thing that happens at the very end of the show. So he has a slight character arc, right? His
Right.
internal conflict is, God, I want to talk to my father, but I'm afraid, so I'm not going to do it. I should voice
Yeah.
my opinion and be honest with him, but I'm afraid, so I won't. And at the very end of the show, the opportunity arises, and he voices his opinion to his father, kind of, and then gets shot down. And it's like, eh. And then after things happen later on, his father walks up to him and goes like, "Gosh, son, you were right about everything. You sure are great. Pat, pat, pat." That did not feel genuine.
No.
That
Yeah.
did. That did not feel
I'm
genuine.
not on my phone.
Yeah,
Sorry, my
no, and I think that's probably, honestly, that's probably, I would say, if I had to choose one big thing, and this is not an uncommon thing. Apparently it's a very easy thing for entire like networks to get wrong, is giving the protagonists specific in all the characters, giving all the characters motivations and showing the motivation, showing them move towards their motivation, and showing people who have opposing motivations work against them, and then in the end, come to some kind of conclusion, and making it, having it feel justified. And so that character, he wants to talk to his dad, but there's not really any conflict that happens, because
Right.
they have a couple boardroom scenes, don't they, where he's there? Is that not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There could have been some conflict in there.
I think the whole show is kind of lacking that.
Yeah.
Like the motivations just were not specific.
I think
It was
And there was nobody had really any conflict with anybody else, except for the older.
Charity and
Say what?
Croy.
Croy?
Charity and
Yeah,
Croy.
yeah, them.
That was very intentional. That was great.
Although I
it.
would say that what was her name? Char?
Chariot?
No.
Croy.
Croy.
Merides.
Croy.
Merides.
Croy at some points was a little bit more evil than, maybe, because I feel like she was trying to help. She was trying to make the world better. But man, she got really evil. And if they had gotten more into that, like subtle decay into like
Leaned more in that direction, yeah.
then that could have been really interesting. But go ahead, no.
So, Croy's motivations bother me because in the episode where Croy leads Atsuko to the tree with the pollen with the anti-magic stuff,
Right.
Ursula ends up there, and Ursula ends up falling, and Croy has a moment of, "Oh no, Ursula!" And then she goes to help Ursula, right? When Ursula's falling. And later on in the season, I'm pretty sure Croy just straight up tries to murder Ursula with no regrets.
Well, also,
so it's like,
that happens earlier too, like when she first.
Does Croy care about Ursula? Does she not care about Ursula? Is she a crazy person? Like,
I feel like there are a couple of moments where Croy is like, doing things to try to defeat Ursula, that are like really, like, she sticks like monsters on her and laser cannons and this and that, magic cannons at the very like beginning when we're finding out about their relationship. And it's like being like shooting at somebody and being like, oh well, I didn't think it would kill them. I do care about them. I was just shooting at them. Like, it felt like she was just going after her, and then that moment where she's like afraid that she's falling is like, well,
it felt out of place for her.
I have a question.
Huh.
So maybe I missed it, or maybe I didn't. But why didn't Croy tell Atsuko? Why didn't she tell her that Chariot was Chariot right away?
I
what would
think
have changed?
the thing that I had gotten out of that was that I think Croy's idea was to wait until that information like until she had. Oh, because she knew. I think it's because she knew this thing about Ursula taking people's powers, and she was like waiting for it to have the maximum like emotional impact on the main character. She was like waiting for that moment where it would like hurt the most. That's kind of what I had gotten out of it.
Okay.
I don't think it was necessarily super clear.
They didn't make it clear.
Yeah, but that's what I was thinking, was that she was like waiting for that moment to be like, "Ha-ha, your hero's evil."
She also doesn't seem to intend to do it prior to the episode with the tree with the anti-magic pollen. I don't think she intends to do it, because up till that point, it seems clear that she's like, okay, I'm going to get Atsuko out of the way by removing all of her magical powers.
Right.
And possibly causing her to fall hundreds of feet to her death.
You know, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
works.
if that happens. I would like to propose a question.
Yes.
The baddies, the Croy's minions, the monsters she makes, that are made out of these
little
like
cubes,
weird, almost ethereal, like hard to interact with, like cube
that apparently
thing,
people can't see,
right? That normal people can't see. As a villain, as like a bad, negative, antagonistic force, did they feel a little bit like insubstantial to you guys?
Yeah, I'd say they did. They felt like
it felt almost like they didn't have weight behind them, right? Like if someone blasted a hole in them, they wouldn't be splattered over the ground. They would reform.
Yeah.
It's almost like it felt like the protagonists were fighting water, right? Like they can't break it or crush it or stuff. It's just liquid.
Well,
and it made it feel. It made the actions of the protagonists when they fought them feel weightless and meaningless.
No, that I 100% agree with that, and I think that's because the kind of, you know, amorphous nature of those little things, and because they don't really like, they are little cubes. They can be anything. Like she can do essentially anything with them, so there's no limitation on it. So they're just like it doesn't feel like because there's no like, because they can be anything and they can do pretty much anything, because there's not really well defined, it feels like no matter what the protagonists do or what anybody does to them, they're gonna reform, or there's gonna be more of them, or it's like this, it's a bottomless pit of power that I don't know the boundaries of. And I don't know what the characters can do to affect them. I don't know if, you know, they'll be able to like, I'm gonna do an electric shock thing and they all, you know, are out, or if they literally will have to like, you know, punch every single, you know, one of the billion of them. It felt kind of hollow.
I think the opposite of that would be to do the opposite of that would be something like a finite number of like stone creatures, right? Where each time the protagonists hit them, we can see cracks and chunks coming off, and we know how many there are, and we know what the protagonists are doing and how meaningful each action they take is.
Right.
Well, I feel like they really crammed him down your throat. They were in.
They kind of did. They were in a lot of episodes, and they didn't really.
Okay, we get it.
It was also like her generic minions. Like it was just like, yeah, they were in all these episodes and they didn't really have a specific function. They just kind of did whatever she needed them to do. You know, they need to like go be spies, or they need to form into a monster, or they need to go like zap up the, you know, whatchamacallit emotions from people. They just kind of do whatever. And so, yeah, they felt kind of, I think an example of like a good example of something kind of like that. Something that is this kind of amorphous, or not, you know, thematically amorphous thing that is, you know, it's powerful, in that, you know, is imposing, and you might not know what the protagonist can do against it, would be something like the Balrog in Lord of the Rings, because it's this horrible thing that comes out of the ground and or somewhere is deep in the earth, and you know it's super powerful. You don't know exactly what it can do. You know that nobody, you know, you can't fight it. you know, and it's this immediate impending threat. Like, I never felt like those little things were like a threat.
Yeah.
They never felt like, you know, they were gonna kill anybody.
If we're comparing one season to the next, though, I felt this season was it was better.
I would agree with that.
I don't think that it was a lot better. I just think
I would say
I-
I would agree, and I think it had its own set of problems. It got rid of some of the old problems, picked up some new problems.
I would say that it's better than the first season, but the last 4 episodes of the first season are the high point of the entire show.
I would agree with that. I'd say the last, I agree 100% with that.
I would also like to say that negative emotional energy fuels the technology for the evil witch. Cliche much, writers. And also, at the end, it turns out that positive emotional energy is more powerful.
Oh my
Cliche
God.
much, writers.
Yeah.
Also, we have no basis or groundwork at this point to establish that happy thoughts and feelings generate magical energy.
Yeah.
There's no point prior in the
They-
show during which they foreshadow this.
They could have left a little bit of groundwork for it. They definitely didn't, though. Yeah, that was also a thing that. Yeah, that was a thing that I think I was thinking about the different possibilities, and I think that was a possibility that I dismissed immediately because it would be too obvious.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
it would have been
that's-
too well.
Yeah, that's
It's not going
that's
to be
what
negative emotions.
that was like the first thing that popped into my mind in
Yeah.
an early episode, and I was like, no, they wouldn't do something so terrible.
Yeah, it was, but you know, that's if they're gonna go for it, that's fine. They could have laid a little more groundwork for it.
I have
Go ahead.
I have a thought.
Uh-huh.
So, Louise Blackwell, the blonde student
Yeah.
at the
I know you
male college
The one that
Right.
Amanda fought with.
school place where Amanda O'Neil goes with Atsuko Kaguri during their little adventure. Does Japan just not really like care about KKK imagery? Because that felt
yeah.
Oh,
really
God.
extreme. I
Oh,
was like,
God.
damn.
It probably does not touch base or touch home quite as much over there as it does over here.
Yeah, that was
Over here
some
it's-
strong imagery.
Yeah. Oh
All
yeah.
of it. Oh yeah, that was bad.
It's like yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, what? Like, what?
Yeah, and if you're not
And like, we already saw his face. Why was his face suddenly covered?
right. Yeah.
Why
Oh.
would he care?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like it's the same. I mean, like if you're not from the U.S., probably it doesn't touch home as much with you. Maybe it's kind of the equivalent of somebody being dressed up as like a Nazi or something, where it's
Yeah.
like, wow, that person's evil. Just so
Yeah.
everyone's aware, bad guy.
So, do we know who wrote this set of seasons? Where they're from?
I have no idea. I would assume they're from Japan.
Because, yeah, but like some
Man.
of that imagery, like thinking about
Mhm.
it, how would they know that it would have like? And they made that statement. That was a statement.
Yeah, it certainly
They-
was. I don't know. I don't know who the writer is.
I would assume they just like thought that the imagery looked good and they
Mhm.
looked into
The-
history in the
yeah.
US and they were like, cool, pull this.
Yeah. So interesting.
I'm not sure.
Which I mean, as a production company, Trigger
Right.
has been known to push those boundaries.
That's,
which is great.
That's fair. Yeah. That's
But-
fair.
Yeah, I would say it would be good if I felt it were justified.
That's fair.
Which
They
in
weren't
this
evil.
like
Well, the
They-
problem is that
Yeah.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
They're not really evil. Nobody's really that bad.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's
you-
okay.
yeah, everyone's actually a good guy in the end. If you look deep enough into the heart of all the murdering rapists, they're good. There's gold in
Exactly.
there,
Oh, boy.
right?
Yeah. So it was interesting message. I probably just cultural disconnect.
Yeah.
I certainly can't blame people in Japan for that, because certainly lots of stuff from Japan I don't understand even a little bit.
I
Yes.
just want to know if it's from Japan, because if we're saying
That's an interesting
Japan,
question.
it
I
might
wonder. I don't know.
not.
Maybe whoever the writer was, I would assume that they're Japanese, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're from somewhere else.
I would like
Like
to
Canada.
ask a question.
What's your question?
Diana Cavendish.
Mm-hmm.
She has her arc
Yep.
where she goes to her
Kind of.
place, and
Yep.
the protagonist is like, "Gosh, Diana, you want to leave the school? I'm gonna stop you." And then Diana's like, "Well, you see, all of my family's assets and all of my family's inheritance and their legacy are about to be sold off and destroyed by these evil relatives of mine."
Mm-hmm.
And then the protagonist is like, "That's stupid. Keep coming to school. Ignore your family garbage." And I'm like, what a protagonist!
That was
Like,
a weird. That was weird
shouldn't-
messaging, or that it was just like a weird. Yeah.
Shouldn't you be encouraging the opposite? Shouldn't you be like, "I understand why you left school. I believe you can save your family's legacy and all of your assets and money so that you don't find out
I
that
think
you're
even say
broke
she's
and poor
selfish.
when you get
Yeah.
out."
That
She calls
actually.
herself selfish.
Yeah, that's
Right,
like-
that was something that I thought was incredibly. That was a frustrating episode,
agree.
because the entire time that episode is happening, protagonist is getting all like, "You have to go back to school," and she's like, "But I have to save my family legacy," and she's like, "No, come back to school. You want to go to school." And
She doesn't even end up saving
Like,
it. She doesn't
right,
even
and
get
she
the...
doesn't in the end, and it's okay, and it's like, but
And it's
It's
like-
what
fine.
about the
She can just
legacy?
go back to school.
Yeah,
like,
I feel
she-
like also the
That was
messaging.
non-consequential.
The messaging there, is, you know what? Don't worry about your responsibilities, family legacy, history, science, saving the world, like this thing your family has been doing, and making the world a better place. You want to go to school? Go do that. That was a little bit like, I don't know.
Well, even the aunts turned out, or the aunt and her daughters turned out to not be bad.
I
Like,
guess
the
they
end
weren't
up
mean-
being,
bad.
oh yeah, she'll be
I mean,
fine.
I guess they weren't bad in the end. They were like, oh, well, I guess she could save it. And it's like, yeah, okay, but are you going to
Yeah.
still sell all the family assets?
they need
Because
to
if you don't do that, we're cool.
They need to stop turning characters good. The characters are not suddenly redeemed for all
Yeah.
of their past actions just because they concluded the story arc for those characters.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, the beliefs of those characters are probably not that much different than they were before the story arc.
No, probably not.
And it's
Yeah, the whole thing at the end of the episode where the evil aunt or whatever that's selling off the family assets, we get this like clue that she is good now, because she's like, you know what? I think that girl might be able to save the family after all. And it's like, okay, so will you stop dismantling the legacy then? Is that what you're saying? You're not going to do that anymore? Or have you just thought, oh, that's actually, she's doing a good job. Let's continue selling all of the valuables in here. Is she good?
That would have been more interesting.
I mean, it kind of would have been, okay, the family legacy is gone. Too bad for that.
have Diana have to live with the consequences of her action.
There you go. Yeah, she didn't though. We didn't go into it. Maybe, who knows?
Which was what was wrong with the first season too.
Yeah.
Was the consequences. I felt like that
Yeah.
they were here about like the death, and I felt that they got in more trouble through the school a little bit. They were trying to track that through better, but at the same time, it still didn't. There wasn't any huge consequence.
Yeah.
It was still not there. It
Yeah,
was like, come on,
It
come on.
still felt very everything felt very kind of inconsequential, it doesn't really matter what happens episode to episode. In the end there'll be some conflict, which okay, so in the end we get this team up between Diana and Protag. What is her name again? Atsuko. Between Diana and Atsuko, we get this team up with them where they go and then they fight a missile. Was it? Or they go defeat a magic missile.
Yeah.
Like a missile.
Magic missile.
It's not like a magic missile. Like a missile has magic in it.
Right.
So, how did you guys feel about that team up at the very end?
You see, I want to talk about. This makes me want to talk about the intro. Mandy, I know you disagree with me on the intro. What are your feelings on the intro to the show?
I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought it
Mhm.
was kind of fun. I agree with you that it was mixed messaging.
Mhm.
Like you said, when they're walking towards each other and then past each other,
Mhm.
that did send a mixed signal from what the message was for the whole show.
Yeah.
Um, I liked it in terms of the visual. If I hadn't seen, like, separating it from the show itself, I really liked it.
Mhm.
Putting it together with the show, I would have
Yeah,
to say I
I
agree with.
I agree. I think that I liked the intro a lot when I didn't have context for it.
Yeah,
After I had watched through the entire season, I felt lied to
Mhm.
by the developers
I
because I'm
agree.
like, they intentionally conveyed messages in the intro
Mhm.
that are just I don't even think I want to call them red herrings. They're just like blatantly like false things.
Mhm.
We have the symbolism of like Diana walking towards Atsuko, and they're going to confront each other, and they're moving towards each other with determination as if they're like rivals or something. And then when they're about to meet each other, they pass each other by, and then it switches Atsuko for Ursula and Diana for Croy,
Mhm.
showing that Atsuko and Diana's relationship is a mirror of Ursula and Croy's relationship, and then showing the hands coming together of Ursula and Croy as if to suggest that they're actually like friends, but none of that is correct.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say about that, I felt like history repeats itself was the message I got there,
Yeah.
and I felt like they were trying to say that if something didn't happen, if these 2 didn't interfere with Diana and with Atsuko, then they would have had the same relationship and bad things would have happened. So I
Interesting.
think they were trying to say that, that they were preventing that. Um,
Mm.
it didn't necessarily come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
I'd agree. I would say when I didn't know before I had seen the second season, I liked the credits a lot more than after
I did too.
I saw the
I,
we watched the second season. Yeah. Afterwards, I was like, the messaging, the stuff in the intro, kind of didn't
I,
make
didn't track.
sense.
I would
Didn't track
also
with the show.
I would also say I think that the intro is like I think it's like the narrator in Nadia the Secret of Blue Water, who narrates what happened last episode, but misremembers all the details.
Yeah.
I think that the narrator in Nadia the Secret of Blue Water and the initial outline of the intro in um my Little Witch Academia.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to call it My Little Witch Academia. I'm sorry. In Little Witch Academia, I think the intro is the same as that in that I think the writers wrote out what it was supposed to convey ahead of time,
Right.
and then they made the episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and then they didn't convey the messages they'd planned, and
Yeah.
then what they'd written out ahead of time didn't fit anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think they had intended for Croy to care about Ursula, but the problem is, the only time Croy shows that she cares about Ursula is once in the entire season, in the entire series, and it feels disingenuous because she's trying to murder Ursula for so much, like without caring, without concern. So
Yeah.
I think that maybe the intro is more reflective of what they had intended to convey, but it doesn't function well because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't convey what they intended to.
Yeah, no, I get behind that. It feels like maybe that was kind of what they were going for in the show, but definitely not what came across in the show.
Right.
So, yeah,
I think that comes down to specificity,
mm-hmm.
having consequences. I mean, all
Yeah.
of these, like, simple, I wouldn't call them simple, but specific.
Yeah.
Like, if they were more specific, it would have made more sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Yeah, probably the biggest problems of the show is, again, motivation. Not enough characters had conflicting motivation, and there was just very little conflict in the show. The conflict, I think the only real conflict in the show is between Shiny Chariot and what was her Urs, or what was her name? The Shiny Chariot's rival.
Croy.
Croy, thank you. I keep wanting to say Erst. I don't know why. Short. But Shiny Chariot and Croy. That's pretty much the only conflict in the show that drives any story at all. And it's because Croy's, thing goes against pretty much everybody. Go ahead now.
I have a question. Did either of you guys feel like maybe every single time that Ursula went to fight Croy, Ursula felt a little bit too much like
A
she
Jedi?
was from a superhero movie, right up until she got a lightsaber and then she felt
Then
like
she
a
was
Jedi.
a Jedi.
The
Yeah.
lightsaber was kind of funny.
That
I
was
liked that.
that
was kind of funny.
that literally made me laugh out loud.
It
I
made me
loathed.
laugh.
Yeah,
I was just like, really? Are we going there?
she's a Jedi. Yeah, I
But
don't.
at the
She just
same time, like, even my kids were like, "That's from Star Wars."
was that.
Why does she have a
was,
lightsaber?
was that in the second season or the first season?
She
second?
like
Was that in the
It
second
felt-
season? She just
it
had a
felt like-
lightsaber once.
it felt
Yeah.
to me like Ursula went into like generic superhero mode where
Yeah.
suddenly she's in spandex
Yeah,
and she's
exactly, and she can run around.
leaping
and-
through things, and I'm like,
And
this
she
doesn't
bounced
really.
off the walls. And
Does
like,
this fit with the witchiness
Yeah.
of the show?
And it didn't
Yeah.
quite fit her when she had the pollen hit her, and there was supposed to be like a consequence for that, but then they were like, "Oh, she can't use a broom," but then she fucking is like climbing on all kinds of stuff and
Yeah, she
able
doesn't
to
need a
get up
broom.
to her anyway.
She doesn't
Yeah.
need a broom.
She
She's
can fly.
literally Wonder Woman.
She's
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was very strange.
She's literally Wonder Woman, but without the sexism. So
But no, yeah,
It
so
was weird. It didn't.
I-
It was just like it was
Her-
humorous.
that I think is just a thematic problem, because again, like if you're gonna do like witch kind of stuff, make it kind of interesting in like a witch thing. You could do
I
that.
would-
But if you want to write Star Wars, that's why fan fiction exists. You can do that.
I would
Or you
say
can try to work for Disney.
they had a distinctive tone for the series,
Mm-hmm.
and it broke every time Ursula went into
Yeah.
her superhero action movie phase.
Because she kind of just had, literally, you could replace her and her wand with a ray gun, like literally jumping around, lightsaber, ray gun, like
Yeah, no.
she literally things were shooting lasers at her. It was very not distinctly witch-like.
And I would
It broke the world.
I would say not just not witch-like, but inconsistent with the tone that the series
Yeah.
had established up to this point.
That's fair. Yeah,
That's what I mean. That like broke the reality. So
Yes.
like when you're watching it, it wasn't consistent with what the messaging was before. So then now all of a sudden this is okay. So this is
Mhm.
the new reality, and it's like okay, like that doesn't do
Would
anything.
you say that it was so stark and jarring that you lost that feeling of verisimilitude?
I don't know that word.
moving on, Noah. Moving on.
I know big words. I don't know that word.
But so Little Witch Academia season 2. Sigh. I was sad. I was really looking up, because again, like the last like 4 seasons of the first, or the last 4 episodes of the first season got really a lot better, and I was going, this could be interesting if they keep it up. But they picked up a whole bunch of problems. One of the things I was saying, let's talk about our hopes and our desires for the second season that we laid out at the end of the first season. So I was saying I hoped that they would get into some of the side characters more. and they would start getting them into the show, and they did a little bit, but also they stopped entirely with the two other main characters, the two friends of the main character, San. I can't remember the names. The girl with the glasses and the girl who likes mushrooms.
Lodi and Susie.
Susie and
My hope was that they would have more consistent character development throughout, which I think they kind of did, but on a very superficial level.
They had. I will grant you, they had more consistent character development than they previously had. Was it sufficient? I mean, I guess it depends on the standards.
I think it was exactly like your wish, in that I guess we got it.
Be careful what you wish for. Be very specific is the messaging of when you wish for things. Mandy, what was the stuff you wished for at the end of the first season?
I went with what you were saying, and I think I added a little bit to it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, onto the side characters and getting into them.
Yeah.
And we did. We got
and
episodes.
I wanted to see more consequences.
That's true. More consequences.
Happen.
Oh, yes. More conflict, more motivations that conflict with each other to generate more conflict. That didn't happen really. There was a little bit of conflict here and there. A lot of it superficial. Go ahead, Mandy. You said.
I was just gonna change topics a little bit because we didn't touch on the music and we didn't touch on the artwork. Yeah. I felt like the artwork was better. I actually enjoyed it more. So that the reason I could sit through it and enjoy it was because
they kicked it up with their artwork.
Forgive some of it,
because
the artwork was very much better.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a counterpoint to that.
Okay.
I think that in a way the artwork got worse because Atsuko, who I said they put far too much budget into animating in the first season, and she was the best looking part of it, and it made everything else look a little bad compared to her. In the second season, every opportunity they had, they turned her into a mouse. And it never looked good. It's a mouse, and the mouse looks okay, but it looks vastly less interesting and less detailed and less impressive than when she's in her normal form. The mouse felt like them being like, you know what's easy to animate? A mouse.
Yeah.
They did it for too long.
They did it every conflict with her. They did it at the school. She turned into a mouse when she had to fight snakes.
Yeah, not really a good plan. Like, I have to fight a giant snake. A mouse!
She turned into a mouse to cross the bridge.
Yeah.
Before she knew there was snakes.
Yeah. So
but still,
that was funny. It was like, oh, this is the perfect form to fight. Yeah. The mouse thing, I get it as her, like, I don't know. I feel like it's all. I mean, it's in the credits. You know, it's in the opening credits. It's kind of like a shtick of her character is that she can turn into a mouse. Yeah, I thought it did it too much. Put a little too much emphasis on it. Or maybe they didn't emphasize it enough in the plot to make it feel reasonable.
I like the details of the other characters more. I felt like more effort into the other characters where I felt like it was lacking.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying in the first season that I really thought they should have done. In the second season, I have the opposite feeling because I'm like, that mouse it doesn't look impressive. The action scenes with that mouse do not look impressive. They look just minimalistic, and there's not a lot going on with the mouse.
I wish we would have seen the giant flying skyship more. Like,
I thought we were gonna.
I was so excited because it was like
so quick. It was just there.
It was one episode. It doesn't mean anything. It was in the credits. You know,
it's in the credits. It's a major part of the intro.
You'd think it would. It feels like it is a story device that's waiting to happen. It feels like, okay, in the end, someone's they're going to get on the skyship. there's gonna be something, but they never really bring it up, and I was like this.
And then it breaks right away.
Can I also say that Constance Amelia von Braunspunk,
Great name.
I like
It
her
is-
character. I
Yeah.
like how they developed her.
A little bit.
I thought her robots, the fact that they could
Yeah.
talk was jarring and unnecessary.
That is
And the
interesting.
fact that they broke so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The robots. That was an interesting episode.
I think
I
giving
like
a voice to a mute character kind of because the robots talk for her, it
Mhm.
kind of almost
I didn't get the sense that she was
devalues
mute
well, she has
because
she
she actually makes sounds. She actually goes.
she makes sounds, but I don't know if she can make words is the impression I got.
She may not be able to hear.
Yeah,
obviously
she might be
she
deaf, so she doesn't
because she's
speak.
listening to
That's-
everything around
So-
her.
Yeah.
So it was conflicted.
I feel like maybe a more
Yeah.
interesting thing they could have done would have been to, instead of make the robots just speak for her, maybe make a robot character with its own personality that wants the best for her, and so maybe can be a slightly unreliable narrator in what
So-
she wants.
It
you know.
it felt like whatever her condition is that she does not appear capable of speaking.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
felt like the robots speaking for her. Well, it was a little bit of a jarring voice, but it seemed like it kind of I don't know how I'm saying this, how I want to say this. This is hard to word. Like it devalues her disability. You get what I mean? Like it kind of like she has this thing that is a struggle for her that she can't do in oh wait, she has
But it's
robots
okay because
that
the robots can
do
do it.
that for her.
You know, it kind of
Again, no
downplays a trait.
for
Yeah.
anything that you have.
Hmm.
I think
So
it would
if
have
anything that holds you back, it's not you're overcoming it. It's it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
We got
Yeah.
that.
yeah, it would have been more meaningful, I think, if there hadn't been such like
If it wasn't
such
such
an
a,
obvious
it was
workaround.
it was a non-issue,
Yeah.
and that was kind of one of their issues is trying to communicate, or she's trying to communicate with they're trying to communicate with each other,
Yeah.
And the fact that the robots were there just made it like, well, the kind of fact that she doesn't speak kind of plays into that idea
And-
they can't communicate.
I really, prior to the robots talking, I thought their voice was a bit jarring. I thought that it, like, honestly, a character who like literally physically cannot communicate
Mhm.
in words, that's good. I like that. I think
Right.
that's interesting. Go ahead, Mandy.
mostly.
Well, the thing I liked about it was that she did have that antisocialism kind of going on, and I like how many times she kicks Atsuko out because I think it really showed how persistent and selfish and like she's
God,
annoying. Oh my
yeah.
god, she's annoying.
Yes, I agree. I
liked
think
that part of it.
I would dare say that Constance is best girl.
I agree.
Ooh, yeah, probably. I can't think of anybody else.
And I'm going
I
to
don't remember very many other people. They were all not terribly memorable.
and I'm going to give worst girl to her robot's voice.
Ooh,
I agree.
solid.
I
Well,
think Lodi was waifu.
Lotte.
Lotte. Lodi.
Lodi. Yeah, that's
I-
fair. Yeah.
Because,
Um,
like, even towards the end, like, even though her character wasn't in this season as much,
So
she
maybe for the show
obviously-
overall.
huh?
Maybe for like the show overall, because she
Right.
wasn't in the first season,
Yeah.
the second season, really. Yeah.
But even in the second season, when they're looking for her, she's the one who's the most worried about her.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
she's the one who would be hurt the worst if anything happened, is what they made it seem.
Yeah. No, I can get behind that.
I refuse to assign a waifu. I would not want to marry any
Abstain.
of these people.
They are all horrible. And abstained.
Also, there are a bunch
Yeah.
of like, how old are they? They're like middle school girls
I don't know.
mostly.
They're
Oh.
they're just assume they're 18. No.
They're like, there'll be people in 7 years. Give them 7 years.
Yeah.
My Little Witch Academia, 7 years later.
You know what? I don't know if I'd watch it at this point. I assume they would lose all the problems from the first 2 seasons and develop all new problems.
Yep.
You know, but
Isn't that life though?
exactly. It's just a constant, rehashing of problems. So final thoughts, Noah. Final thoughts on Little Witch Academia.
Don't watch it.
Don't watch it. That's fair.
It's a not recommend. I like elements of it.
Mhm.
Don't watch it.
That's Mandy. Final thoughts on
I
Little Witch
would
Academia.
say watch it with a grain of salt. I mean, if you have kids and
Maybe some
sometimes
cayenne.
there are little moments that are funny,
Mhm.
but I don't think it's necessarily educational. I don't feel that it has a good solid messaging system. It's just you watch it for the fun of watching it,
Mhm.
but don't go into it with an expectation it's going to be anything.
Yeah. No, I would say put it on in the background if you want. If you want to
That's
watch
fair.
it, watch it in the
I
background.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the art's pretty good, The art's pretty good. It has some interesting looking scenes. Yeah, that's not bad. Overall, if you're really, really into, or if you really want to watch a really solid, good, well-rounded anime, this is not the one. But if you just like doing some homework one day,
Or
Put
if
it
you
on-
want to
put it on the
make your kids, if you want to teach your kids that being ever so slightly a little bit husky, very minorly, is like the devil's crime and will make you dumb in the brain, then
It's really
show them
interesting
this.
hearing what they get out of it, though. Like, my son got some interesting things that I didn't that I thought were cool. So, I mean, it just
That's fair.
watch it with them. If you're going to watch it with a kid, watch it with them
so that you can correct any
Yeah.
things that might happen.
Because
Yeah.
then that kind of is a learning experience, too. Because then they can get, oh, that doesn't work because of
Yeah.
this.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Little Witch Academia. You were an interesting show in many ways. Well, so those are definitely our thoughts on Little Witch Academia season 2. Season 1, yeah. So what is the show? We have about 3 minutes left in the show. What is the show we were going to... So originally we were going to watch that, was it the detective one, Noah?
Was it time travel? Was it time travel?
You
I
said it right.
love me some time travel.
What was that one? Was it
Erased?
Erased?
Yeah.
That was
Erased is
That's
time
what I
travel.
had.
Time travel as in the best genre?
The best genre of all genres, really.
Of all genres.
All genres aspire to be time travel.
It's true.
That's what I understand.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I think we discussed doing that. Does that sound good to everybody? Time travel, or if anybody has anything, it will be, I believe, Saturday the 27th of October. So if there was another spooky, scary Halloween-ish kind of thing you wanted to watch, we could always do that instead. If anybody had anyone in mind, nope. Erased it is. How long is that, Noah? Do you know?
Some number of episodes.
Okay,
Probably more than one.
we've-
Less than 27.
We have also decided that if we do a TV show, we're only going to do one season.
12.
12. Good, perfect. So, like the way we did Little Witch Academia here, we did season 1. We decided to go for season 2. We watched season 2. Unfortunately, we had similar reactions.
Someday we'll have to see how far we get with One Piece.
Oof, well, no, you see, we'd be just doing... It would be,
Aren't there like 800 and some episodes of One Piece?
it would,
I don't know. I gave up at like the 200 or 300 mark.
It would make us the One Piece podcast, is what it would do. So I don't think we're going to do One Piece. But
You would have to really break that up in chunks because that would change so much too.
yeah, we could maybe do eras, but we're not going to do One Piece. So don't even think about it. Nope.
Okay.
I doubt I will ever watch One Piece. In the same way that I doubt I will ever climb Everest. It might be worth doing, but I got shit to do. So, All right. Well, Jonah, that about wraps it up for us then today. Jonah, that was our discussion of Little Witch Academia. Join us next week on Saturday, the 27th of October, for Erased, which is apparently an anime about time travel, the best genre. So, ladies and gentlemen, it was good to see you. Have a good night. Bye.